the unfortunate thing is, of course, that every time he appears, he attracts a lot of speculation and publicity. Will he meet his father? Will he meet his brother? Probably people saying it's inappropriate to come on the third anniversary of the Queen's death, that sort of thing. And so, unfortunately, he is always a distraction. But let us hope that his visit at least helps the charity that he's come here to support. I think you'll find there's always be a clash with something that Prince Harry does because you can always find one, be it an anniversary. The other members of the royal family are out and about doing things, so inevitably it's going to clash with what they're doing. And I suppose that the real point is that anything that Prince Harry does is always going to be seen as a distraction. I mean, the Queen was very disappointed in Prince Harry when he went away. I mean, she actually said to a friend of hers, now he's simply a childminder, whereas he had a lot of very important responsibilities beforehand. And what the Queen and what Prince William and what the King now are all doing, they're putting things into life, they're serving, which is complete opposite of what Prince Harry's doing. I mean, admittedly, with this charity, fine, he's supporting it. Let's hope that that does some good. And I would like to see him do more of those sort of things and less of hanging around in the back of Meghan Markle's cookery programs. My feeling is that the King has kept the door open for him. I think the problem is that Prince Harry has said on record that he wants his family to apologise to him. Well, actually, it should be the other way round. He should apologise to them. I think it would be very much in his interests to reconcile with his father. If he doesn't, and if anything happens to his father, he's going to feel pretty bad about that. And he's got enough things to feel bad about without having that on top of everything else. And, the King, I'm sure, would see him if he behaved properly. To be honest, it is usually possible if both sides are prepared to compromise. But at the moment, I don't see that happening. And I certainly don't think that's going to happen with Prince William, because I think he's very upset by the way his brother has behaved. And of course, it's always much more difficult when you've been very close to somebody. Somehow you feel even more let down. And the two brothers were very, very close. And their mother, I think, would be terribly unhappy. And their grandmother too, frankly. Well, I think this is just a visit. But I suppose every visit is a testing of the waters to see how he is greeted in the media and by the general public if they see him. It's a very sad situation because he had a lot to offer. Unfortunately, I think he's blown it, at any rate for the moment, because, as I keep saying, anything that he does is such a distraction. And so if I was advising the King, I would not want him undertaking royal duties, because every time he did anything, it would deflect from what the King was doing, which is much more important. So that's a problem. I'm sure that he would probably like to come back in some form, but unfortunately, that's a very difficult situation because the only way he'll ever come back is if he comes back alone. Therefore, that implies that he isn't going to be with his wife or indeed probably his children, and I'm sure he would mind that bitterly. So that's a big problem. I mean, he's in a very difficult situation, and I do feel sorry for him, but it is very much of his own making, I'm afraid. They were very close. I can remember seeing William and Catherine and Prince Harry all doing things together, and they looked in total unity. I'm afraid that stopped shortly after Meghan Markle came on the scene. That was the game changer. But it is natural with the royal family that, come the Platinum Jubilee service, Prince William sits in the front row, Prince Harry in the second. Commonwealth observance the same. That's what the royal family do. I'm glad that he's taken the trouble to pay respects to his grandmother at St. George's Chapel. I hope that was just done completely privately, because people are bound to say, oh, well, he'll get publicity out of that or something. But, I mean, I'm sure he misses his grandmother. But the sad thing is that he did make her very unhappy in the last couple of years of her life, and he caused her a lot of trouble, and he probably feels rather guilty about that. I'm sure he has many regrets, and I do feel sorry for him, just on a human level. He obviously got on terribly well with his grandmother. They look to say they're getting on terribly well together, and to jeopardize all that is a great shame. Most people who chuck in their duty and try and take the path of perceived happiness, they usually regret it, to be quite honest. It's very sad. Because usually you feel happier in life if you're making a contribution. And I mean, when I say a contribution, doing things for other people rather than for yourself. It's all a very sad situation. It's always a very sad situation when there's a rift in a family, but it is of Prince Harry's making, not of theirs. And they probably feel, that they've been doing their duty all this time and they're getting on with things, and he's taken what looked like a kind of a relatively cushy sort of, escape route, even if that hasn't made him happy, which I don't think it has. As I say, you're usually happier when you're putting things into life than taking things out of life. As far as paying respects to a grandmother, I'm very glad that he did it on his own, because I think that's appropriate. As you say, it's a shame that there isn't a sort of unified showing of grief, I guess, but that's not likely to happen. And so I'm glad he went, and I hope he got some comfort out of it. And I think it's very much up to Prince Harry to make that clear, to make that move and to apologize. But then he, on the other hand, has said that he wants the royal family to apologize to him. So, you've got a sort of impasse there, this difficult situation. And the king's got a lot of other things on his mind, not least the fact that it is not obviously the anniversary of his mother's death is also his own accession day. And so it means that he has now achieved 3 years on the throne, 3 years which in some respects have been made very difficult by his errant son.